Who's looking out for John Doe? That's the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. In Washington yesterday, Democrats blocked efforts to protect citizen whistleblowers from lawsuits filed by politically correct apologists for terror. The John Doe provision is named after courageous passengers on a U.S. Airways flight last fall who reported suspicious activity by 6 flying imams. Grievance-mongering lawyers for the imams went on a witch hunt and dragged the anonymous John Doe's defendants into a lawsuit and accused them of anti-Muslim bigotry. These lawsuits are chilling. Their goal is to intimidate patriotic citizens who witness security undermining behavior. Picture yourself riding on a plane. You see a guy in front of you tie on a red bandana and try to light a fuse on his sneaker. Better think twice about telling the stewardess you could be the next John Doe to land in court. And remember Brian Morgenstern. He's the Circuit City clerk who contacted police when he saw jihadi training videos that exposed the Fort Dix terror plot. Alert, vigilant citizens like Morgenstern are left vulnerable to litigation by lawyers shrieking about profiling. Let's roll has been traded in for let's roll over. A John Doe protection amendment by Republican Senator Susan Collins failed to pass the 60-vote Senate threshold by 3 votes. Every Republican, except for presidential candidate Sam Brownback, who didn't bother to vote, supported shielding John Does from lawsuits. Only 8 Democrats, many at risk in the 2008 election, said yes. Democrat presidential candidate Barack Obama refused to show up to vote and take sides. This refusal of Democrats to protect John Does doing their civic duty is downright treacherous. We're always being told, if you see something, say something. But the actions of the Democrats send the opposite message. If you see something, shut up. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, another view of this. With us now, Rebecca Aboud-Chedid, the Director of Government Relations at the Arab American Institute. Rebecca, what's your reaction to what I just said, and how can you possibly disagree with common sense legislation that would shield these tipsters from lawsuits?
Well, where I think we agree is that I think we agree that all citizens have a duty and obligation to report suspicious behavior. There's no disagreement there. We also agree that people who do so should be protected. Where we disagree is I think that they are protected. I think they're protected by our courts. We have a court system. That court system shields people from lawsuits that don't have a basis. And I think that this case that you're referring to specifically, the one about the imams who were removed from the plane, is going through the court system, and it's not as if, I think we need to give the courts a chance to do what they're supposed to be doing. We have laws that protect not just people like this who are coming to law enforcement. Doctors are protected from faulty malpractice suits, and people are protected from all kinds of suits that don't have a basis in law. And I think that what we see in this legislation, I think, is a solution in search of a problem.
Oh, I think the problem is a big one, though. I'm glad that we agree on something. Okay, let's take that piece that we agree with, that citizens have this obligation to do it.
Sure.
The problem is that without some sort of guarantee, as the John Doe Protection Amendment would offer to citizen whistleblowers, you've got people out there who will second-guess themselves, who will hesitate, and that's exactly what the flying imams lawyers want out of people. They want to intimidate and harass. That's what that lawsuit was all about, to try and witch hunt these anonymous John Does, and to send a message to everyone else that if you take action, if you report suspicious behavior, you may be subject to these lawsuits. You better not do it, because your name will be dragged out in the public. If they find those names, you will be accused of being a bigot and a xenophobe. And then you've got this case where you'll end up with hindsight hypocrisy, because if it does happen that the whistleblower was correct, I mean, it's a no-win situation. Only after they're proven correct will they say, well, that wasn't a case of bigotry. You want people to do it on a case-by-case basis, but the effect of that is you've got this situation where people will hesitate, and that's the problem.
Look, if there's been a suit brought up against them in civil court. If this is a frivolous lawsuit, it will get thrown out, and these people will not have a problem. The problem is if you pass a law...
No, stop. Because we're talking about the effect that it will have on future John Does. They see that these John Does now are fighting in court, that they've got to pay lawyers, that their names will be dragged out on the mud if they are revealed. And the effect is that if you've got the next Brian Morgenstern, he's going to think twice about doing it. He will freeze. He will paralyze. I'm really curious about what part of this you do not agree with. Any person who in good faith and based on objectively reasonable suspicion makes or causes to be made a voluntary voluntary report of covered activity to an authorized official shall be immune from civil liability under federal, state, and local law for such report. There's a provision that this would not affect somebody who makes a false report. Seems common sense to me. What's the problem?
Well, I think the problem is that you're giving a very blanket immunity to what is good faith. I mean, you're legislating what is good faith. What if someone sees a Hasidic Jew who's about to pray on an airplane and that makes them nervous and they report that behavior?
Look, it's in the context of the September 11th terror attack.
So is it only Muslims?
Do you not agree? It's not about just Muslims. It's about suspicion of behavior.
But what's the behavior? I mean, okay, look, I mean, there are two sides.
Let's talk about the imams.
Right.
It's not just the fact that they were saying Allahu Akbar. It was the fact that they were standing up in the aisles, that they were defying the regulations, security regulations that were in place that everyone else seemed to follow. It was the fact that they were asking for these seat fasteners and seat extenders on their belts. It's the fact that they were engaging in behavior that reminded people of the September 11th terrorist attacks.
Okay, first of all, I think that you and I can both agree that if these people were not imams and if they were not praying and if they were not saying the word Allah, which just means God in Arabic, I don't think that they would have aroused similar suspicion. I think we can agree on that. Now, the problem with this case is I wasn't there and you weren't there. There are definitely two sides to this story in terms of the behavior of the imams. The FBI has interviewed the imams and said that they did nothing wrong. So this isn't a case of of someone reporting suspicious behavior of people who actually did anything wrong. I mean, that's important to note here. Now, the point that I'm making is that if there was any wrongdoing, the courts will decide. And I don't see why you or I need to be making that decision and not a judge and a jury. I mean, that's how our laws work. We have a court system that is made to adjudicate, you know, disagreements between individuals, and I don't see why we wouldn't allow the courts to do their job.
I think you suffer from a blindness here about the main threat that faces us. It is not Hasidic Jews driving planes into tall buildings.
It's not imams either. It's not imams.
It's people who follow the word of jihadist imams who are telling them that infidels need to die on American soil. Do you not agree with that?
It's not.
Then you've
that's
not been
these
paying
imams.
attention.
That's not these imams.
Rebecca, we're out of time. Thank you.